Hello, my name's Claire Weatherall. I'm one of the university archivists. I work down at the History Centre. So I just wanted to say thank you to Lynn and everyone for inviting me to give this overview of the Larkin Archives. I hope it'll be a useful... Okay, sorry. Is that better? Okay. So I hope this overview will be a useful background and help to set the scene for the next few days, which I'm sure are going to be really interesting. So why, as a University of Hull archivist, am I being asked to talk about Larkin's archives? Well, the answer's simple. The simple answer, is that Larkin's personal archive collections are deposited with Hull University Archives. To understand why this is the case, though, we need to consider Larkin's deep personal and professional connection to Hull. This connection begins with his friendship with George and Jean Hartley, who founded the Marvel Press in Hessel and published Larkin's first edition of poetry in 1955. Having arrived in Hull in March 1955, Larkin took up duties as the university librarian, aged 32, and remained in the city for the rest of his life. Building on the work of those who had come before him, Larkin oversaw significant redevelopment and growth of the university's library, establishing it as one of the country's leading academic libraries and supporting the growth of the university's archives and special collections. His poems were often inspired by the experience of living in Hull, travelling around the region, and by the people he met here. Even before his death, the University of Hull had begun conversations about the possibility of starting a collection of Larkin's published and unpublished original and copy papers. After some discussion, Larkin agreed, and the Philip Larkin collection was established at the University Library in January 1974. In the wake of his death, an exhibition of Larkin's correspondence was arranged at the university as a celebration of his life, and this resulted in further material being added to the collections. Upon settlement of his will, papers that formed part of the Larkin estate were also deposited with the university archives, and the collections grew from there. Hull is now the best place in the world to research Larkin. So as time takes us further away from the people who knew and interacted with him, the archive collections grow in significance, giving us all the chance to revisit and delve deeper into Larkin's creative process, motivations, and influences. At the University Archives, we're incredibly proud to care for and provide access to the archival material created by Philip Larkin and those associated with him. But what material do we have? Chief amongst the surviving papers are Larkin's literary manuscripts and his extensive correspondence. As an amateur photographer, he left a large collection of photographic prints. As a jazz enthusiast, he developed a large record collection. And as you might expect of a writer and librarian, he collected an extensive personal library. To complement these personal collections, we also have a reference collection of published works by and about Larkin and his writings. And that's not counting the scores of related collections created by those close to Larkin, people such as Monica Jones, Maeve Brennan, and his immediate family. But enough of the overview, and let's have a look at some of the actual stuff. So starting almost at the beginning, whilst at university in Oxford, Larkin wrote a series of pieces under the pseudonym Brunette Coleman. Sugar and Spice is a collection of poems, whilst Trouble at Willow Gables is a short novel set in a girls' school. Other pieces written as Coleman include an essay titled What Are We Writing For?, in which Larkin discusses how to write. And plenty of other examples of Larkin's juvenilia have survived amongst his personal papers. Prior to attending Oxford, Larkin wrote a number of short fictional pieces, including Last Man In, or How Alan Saved His Side, about a boy who was reminiscent of Larkin and the role he played in a school cricket match. And he also wrote a pirate story titled Vampire Island, and this was done as a piece of schoolwork. So all of these still survive. These early writings give us an insight into Larkin's developing creative mind and the period in his youth when he considered becoming a novelist. Alongside this early fictional writing, A number of diary extracts and short journal accounts have survived. So as many of you might know, it was Larkin's wish that his personal diaries were destroyed upon his death. Acting in line with these wishes, his long-term partner, Monica Jones, got rid of the diaries after he died. However, pages from a diary kept during the 1930s, whilst still at school in Coventry, have survived, as has an account of his experience of studying at St John's College, Oxford in the 1940s, as well as part of a journal kept whilst working at Wellington Public Library, which was his first job after university. These ephemeral survivals give us further insight into the young Larkin's thoughts and experiences. But the big hitters in the collection are the poetry notebooks. 8 notebooks survive, one's held at the Bodleian Library, but the rest are here in Hull amongst Larkin's personal archive. They contain manuscript working drafts of poems by Larkin, written mostly in pencil, with systematic drafting and redrafting, crossing through and reworked paragraphs. The notebooks are a fascinating and unique insight into Larkin's writing process. You can even tell the days he was obviously bored, distracted, or perhaps just thinking, as many of the pages feature little doodles or drawings. Or perhaps this was part of an integral part of his creative process. Especially when we consider the hundreds of examples of doodles and drawings that exist in Larkin's letters to friends, family, and partners, which I know you're going to hear a bit more about later in the conference. For now, this brings us to his surviving correspondence. Larkin was a prolific letter writer. Some of his earliest correspondence is between himself and school friend Jim Sutton, with whom he discusses family life, a shared interest in jazz music, and his own creative writing. The most extensive set of letters is from Larkin to his parents, who he refers to as Mop and Pop. After the death of his father, Larkin wrote regularly to his mother, Eva, apprising her of his life's events and inquiring after her welfare. Other correspondence includes school friend Colin Gunner, lifelong friend Kingsley Amis, long-term partner Monica Jones, and poets Andrew Motion and Anthony Thwaite, as well as countless more. It's with these correspondence that he discusses his thoughts and opinions on life, literature, writing, and music. And every year, further letters turn up. But it's not just evidence of Larkin the poet and correspondence that survives. Encouraged from an early age by his father, Larkin was a keen amateur photographer. Thousands of photographic prints were created by Larkin during his lifetime. These were bequeathed by Monica Jones to the Bodleian Library upon her death and have been deposited by the Bodleian with the University Archives for researchers to access in Hull. Subjects depicted often reflect those discussed in his poetry and show friends and family close to Larkin. Much like the poetry notebooks, we can see a drafting process at work in a number of his photographs. He often marks up specific areas of a print for reprinting to produce a final image with which he's happy. This is a fascinating collection, allowing us further insight into Larkin's creative mind and the themes that preoccupied him. 2 major personal collections remain, the first of which is Larkin's library. As a writer, we might expect him to have a large personal collection of books, and he did. In addition to copies of his own published works, Larkin's library includes works by Beatrix Potter, D.H. Lawrence, Thomas Hardy, William Shakespeare, W.H. Auden, and Dylan Thomas. A number of the volumes contain inscriptions or enclosed notes written by or to Larkin. Whilst not described in the History Centre's catalogue, there's actually a hand list to the collection that's available in our reading room. Similarly, as a jazz lover, aficionado, and reviewer for The Telegraph, Larkin left an extensive jazz record collection, supported by a collection of books on the subject. His favourite artists, Louis Armstrong, Sidney Bechet, and Count Basie, can be found amongst the collection, alongside Duke Ellington, Johnny Rogers, Billie Holiday, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, and many, many more. This extract from a letter written to Jim Sutton around 1938 demonstrates the early days of a lifelong love of jazz music. So he writes, "About jazz," lots of exclamation points, gnashing of teeth. "Georgia Bobo doesn't appeal to me quite as much as it used to, but I still think it was the rhythm of that moved me. References such as this to his thoughts on particular records, tracks and artists are scattered throughout Larkin's correspondence right up to his death. And there are several surviving papers relating to the volume of critical essays written by Larkin and first published under the title All What Jazz in 1970. And finally, we meet Guy the gorilla. Indeed. Object rather than archive, Guy sat on Larkin's desk in the university library. Covered in quotes from writers and snippets about students, the object reminds us that Larkin had two professions, those of poet and librarian. Whatever we might infer about his opinion of work as expressed in his poetry and correspondence, Larkin appears to have been a conscientious librarian. The university's own archives contain many records relating to Larkin in the context of his life as a professional librarian. A personnel record, correspondence files, minute books, all document his successful leadership of the university library over a period of 30 years. Larkin's death came before he could retire, unfortunately, so it seems quite fitting to end our review here. But if you'd like to learn more about the Larkin collections at Hull, you can download a copy of our research guide on the History Centre's website. Should you wish to see anything, please do get in touch using the email address on this slide. We're always happy to answer questions, to book you into the reading room and to help you find what you're looking for. So thank you very much for listening, and we hope to see lots of you over at the History Centre using these fantastic collections.